Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. In this video, I'm going to look at the week starting on Monday, December the 18th, 2023. And this week runs through until Sunday, December the 24th. So to give you an idea about how this video is going to be structured, I'm going to start off by looking at the astrological events this week, or rather the astrological events that I regard as being important. So I'm going to run through them. Then I'm going to consider how these events might impact certain famous people, celebrities, etc. Or rather, to be more specific, I'm concentrating on what I regard to be the most important aspect this week, which is a sesquiquadrate between Mars and Jupiter at the end of the week. I do think this is the most important aspect, and I'm going to look at how I think this aspect may impact certain people. For example, I think it might hit Bill Gates. I think it might hit Melania Trump, might hit Hunter Biden, and a few others. So having done that, I am going to consider the I Ching for this week. So I asked an I Ching question about how this week is going to fare for those watching this video, for those that want to watch this video. And I'm going to look at the I Ching from three broad perspectives, which are money, career, and relationships. Okay, so let's start off by looking at the broad astrological positions for this week. So top right, that's Bill Gates. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about him because I think he might be influenced by what's going on. Of course, just because he's influenced by it doesn't mean we'll get to hear about it. We probably won't. In fact, we probably almost certainly won't. But it's an opportunity to have another look at his horoscope. So these are the start positions. This is the positions of the planets when the week starts, when Monday begins at midnight in New York on December the 18th, 2023. I mean, there's no particular reason why I have to go for New York. I could have gone for Sydney, Australia, or Los Angeles, or London. It doesn't matter. I just wanted to get a chart to show you the start positions. So we can see that Mercury is retrograde. And Mercury is going to be retrograde pretty much for the rest of the year. You can see that Mercury is at 614 Capricorn, and it's moving backwards towards a trine with Jupiter. So Monday, beginning of the week, it's this trine Mercury Jupiter that has the emphasis, and I think it's a very fortunate trine. Okay, Mercury and Jupiter are both moving retrograde, which may weaken it a bit. But Mercury is the communication planet. Jupiter is the planet of good luck, of expansion, that kind of thing. So at the beginning of a week, we can communicate very effectively. And because both Jupiter and Mercury are retrograde, maybe we can communicate about the past effectively. So if something has happened in the past that we feel we need to discuss for whatever reason, it would be a great time to bring it out into the open and to really start to talk about it. Now, Mercury and Jupiter are both in earth signs, which represents the material world and perhaps money. So maybe if someone owes us money, some long-standing debt, perhaps. This Mercury-Jupiter trine might enable us to talk about this debt. It doesn't mean to say we have to make an aggressive demand. No, it's about just discussing it, and that might be a start. It could also be about business, career, stuff like that. We can talk about these things, because sometimes people find it very difficult to talk about money, and money is something that can be talked about at the beginning of the week. Now, Mercury moves on, keeps moving backwards, and by Tuesday, it's starting to make a 135-degree aspect to the planet Uranus. Now, that could be somewhat problematic. People are going to say stuff without really thinking about it. There's going to be a sense of excitement. They've got to talk, got to say something. Our own minds, around Tuesday are going to be just buzzing, full of energy, full of activity. We've got to say something. But we have to think about it. Is that really the right thing to do? With Mercury making this sesquiquadrate to Uranus, there's a danger that we say something without really thinking about it. And when you look out into the world at large, there could be a lot of excitement, people having lots of ideas, and perhaps trying to impose their ideas on us. Uranus is, it has this sort of some reputation for being all about freedom, but Uranus can be quite a fascist planet, actually. It has definite ideas about the way things should be run, and so maybe with this Mercury sesquiquadrate Uranus, people are going to be telling us what to think, what to believe. So we have to be careful. We don't want to get caught up in particular ideas that we don't necessarily believe in, but we just feel we have to. We have to go along with it all. Then Thursday, Venus. There's Venus. Venus is at 16 Scorpio at the beginning of a week. By Thursday, Venus has moved to an opposition of Uranus. Now, Venus opposition Uranus can be about relationships. It can be about instability within relationships, things happening in relationships which really upset things. So if you're in a relationship and there has been any sort of recent instability, maybe you should tread carefully. It won't take much to cause an explosion. On the plus side, if you're looking for new relationships or some romantic excitement, Venus opposition Uranus might provide it. That's what, Uranus is about: excitement, about things happening that are unexpected. And so, maybe that's how Venus opposition, perhaps the most positive way that Venus opposition Uranus could manifest. Venus is not just about love, it is also about money. And so with Venus opposition Uranus, we perhaps have to be a little wary of financial shocks. I'm not necessarily saying devastating financial shocks, but finding things out about money which perhaps we didn't really want to hear. And so we need to perhaps consider our financial situation and consider what we might be doing wrong, what we might be leaving to chance. And this is a time where we need to make sure that everything is in good order. Particularly, it's a run-up to Christmas. So it's a sort of truism to say that, in a run-up to Christmas, and depending on your culture, but if you're in a sort of culture that celebrates Christmas, then there's a sort of danger of over-expenditure. Yes, I know that's a truism, but it's real. Venus opposition Uranus. shocks regarding money, doing shocking things with money, doing shocking things with one's credit card. Particularly Venus, beautiful things, buying beautiful stuff. I mean, stuff that sort of looks beautiful, at least to begin with. Probably once you buy it, it's not going to look quite so beautiful. So yeah, be careful. Be careful about buying clothes, jewelry, that kind of thing. Is it really necessary? Probably not. So yeah, be careful with that in terms of Venus, that opposition between Venus and Uranus. Then on Friday, now Friday is the 22nd, and Friday is the solstice. It is the winter solstice. That's right. It's the 22nd, 3:27 London time. So 3:27 in the morning London time. Now, are you making any plans for the solstice? Now, if you're in the Americas, the solstice kind of happens at a very civilized time. So if you're in New York, the solstice happens actually it happens on Thursday. On Thursday evening at 10:27 p.m. If you're in Los Angeles, West Coast, it would be at 7:27 p.m. So in the Americas, you can, on Thursday evening, you can perhaps have a party to celebrate the solstice, because it will be genuine. At that particular time, 10:27 p.m. in New York, 7:27 p.m. in Los Angeles or Seattle or Vancouver in British Columbia. That's when it happens. And you might want to celebrate that in some way. And, that particular moment, I must emphasize with the solstice. The solstice is the moment when the sun is at its maximum southerly declination. So that is literally, from a northern hemisphere perspective, is the depths of winter. It is the longest day. It is the point of maximum darkness. And after that, the sun only gets stronger in the northern hemisphere. The days get longer. Of course, it's the opposite if you're in the southern hemisphere. If you're in Australia, it's the peak. It's high summer, and after that, in Australia, your days are getting shorter and shorter. So it depends on your hemisphere, and I always like to sort of apologise for the hemispheric bias. I'm in the northern hemisphere, so there is that northern hemisphere bias. But if you want to celebrate the solstice, you do need to focus on that exact moment, because that exact moment is when the gateway opens. That's the gateway to the cosmos. These sort of wild spiritual and supernatural forces. At that moment, the gateway opens and they come down here on Earth, and they work their magic or their mischief. Now, I will be focusing in greater detail on the solstice in a few days' time, but I kind of wanted to see the solstice in this video as just being just another event which helps us understand the week. Now, if you are celebrating the solstice in Europe, say for example in London, it's a different picture, because the solstice is at 3:27 a.m. So if you want to do something special for the solstice, you're going to have to get up early or go to bed late. Because, if you think, well, you can do it when you get up in the morning on Friday, too late, it's gone, it's done. So that's the time to celebrate it in London, 3:27 a.m. on Friday morning, which is 4:27 a.m. in if you're in Berlin or Paris. So that's a solstice. I think that is a really important event. Everything changes. The days the days are changing. Northern Hemisphere days have stopped getting shorter; they're now getting longer. Southern Hemisphere, it is the opposite. Now on Saturday the 23rd, Mercury, moves into Sagittarius. So Mercury has been going backwards through early Capricorn, and then on Saturday the 23rd, it goes into Sagittarius. So the precise time that happens is 6:17 a.m. in London, 1:17 a.m. If you're in New York. I don't think the time particularly matters. Just so you know, Saturday Mercury moves into Sagittarius. Now, Mercury is not in a great position. Now, Mercury is already not in a great position because it's going retrograde. And now, to make matters worse, it's in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is a sign of Mercury's detriment. Mercury rules Gemini. And so Sagittarius is the opposite sign to Gemini. So what can happen is that we may not be able to think straight. With Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, we might have all sorts of strange ideas. We might jump to conclusions. Mercury is also the communication planet. With Mercury in Sagittarius, we might say things without really thinking through what the implications are. We might say things on the basis of false information. So if you're going to say something, particularly if the setting is important, then make sure you've got your facts right. Because with Mercury in Sagittarius, you could just jump to conclusions, to convince yourself the facts don't matter, and that could be a problem. Also in terms of, making decisions, for example, about how to spend money, how to invest money. Mercury in Sagittarius could, encourage you to make real mistakes. So be very wary about that. And another thing going on at the end of a week is Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. Now, in my opinion, this is probably the most important aspect of the week. Let me just show you what the aspect looks like. I've set this for London. There's Jupiter, 542 Taurus retrograde. There is Mars at 2042 Sagittarius. So Mars and Jupiter, 135 degrees apart. That's 3/8 of the circle. So if you've got a cake divided into 8 equal slices, the sesquiquadrate is like 3 slices. And the Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter is very energetic. There's a great desire to do stuff, but it can get out of control. Jupiter just doesn't know when to stop, and Mars encourages it, and so it just goes on and on and on, and it could create a bit of a problem. So at the end of the week, we have to really make sure that we don't go over the top, in a physical way as well. I mean, we might feel that we should just go for it. Physical exercise, excessive physical exercise. We might do ourselves an injury with Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter. But we might also overreact to events, and our reactions might be unfortunate. And we might, at the same time, see other people overreacting. Other people acting in an excessive way. And this Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter could affect, what's going on in the world. It's happened just after the winter solstice, and so this is part of the stuff coming through through that gateway. So the world might become a little bit crazy at the end of a week. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at how this Mars sesquiquadrate Jupiter might affect certain people. So you can see that I've got a picture of Bill Gates up there. So just quickly, let's look at Bill Gates's chart. So what I'm looking at is Bill Gates's sun. So you can see that Bill Gates has got his sun in Scorpio, and that means that he's got Jupiter opposition his sun, exactly opposition his sun, and Mars is going to be exactly semi-square his sun. So his sun is being hit in two ways, and Mars is acting as a trigger to that Jupiter opposition. So I have no idea what Bill Gates is going to be doing, but if you're around him just before Christmas, his behavior might be a bit more over the top than usual. He might be a bit more impulsive than usual. I don't know. I'm sure we're not going to know what happened, but I just wanted to point that out. Another person who has been in the news recently is Meghan. We've talked a lot about Meghan, and Meghan has got her Mercury at 538 Leo. So that means that Jupiter is going to be, around Christmas, is going to be exactly square her Mercury, and Mars is going to be exactly semi-square her Mercury. So her Mercury is seriously activated. So this is about how she communicates. The way she communicates could be quite over the top. And with Mars semi-square her Mercury, that might encourage her to say some quite unpleasant things, cutting comments and whatever. So I don't know what Harry's doing over Christmas. Is he spending Christmas with Meghan? So yeah, if Harry's spending Christmas with Meghan, it might be a difficult Christmas actually, with Jupiter square her Mercury, or at least the run up to Christmas could be difficult at least. So I don't know. Meghan's going to want to say stuff. Maybe she's going to make some announcement, or she's going to want to be in the public eye. Her Mercury's in Leo. Mercury in Leo likes attention, likes to speak in a way that gets attention. But yeah, it could be tough on Harry. If he's around her. I don't know what their plans are in the immediate run up to Christmas. Then we've got Melania Trump. Now, Melania Trump has got her sun at 548 Taurus. So Jupiter is exactly opposition her sun, and Mars is exactly sesquiquadrate her sun, around Saturday the 23rd of December. So the sun is a male planet, and so we might say that the sun represents the men in her life, might represent her husband, Donald. So she might have to deal with the excessive, over-the-top behaviour of her husband, of Donald. I don't know what he's up to, but I think he'll find it very difficult to sit still. I think he will have big ideas with Mars, sesquiquadrate her sun. There's a bit of anger there. So I think she might be actually a bit annoyed with her husband's behaviour. I mean, that is a possibility for this week. Then there is what else? Well, I talked about Lloyd Austin, the Defence Secretary, quite recently. We don't have a time for him. We didn't have a time for Melania either. But Lloyd Austin, he's got his Mars at 625 Leo. So just before Christmas, he's going to have Jupiter square his Mars, and he's going to have Mars sesquiquadrate his Mars. So, I suppose he's a retired soldier, so the Mars might represent soldiering. That might represent stuff happening in the world. He's Secretary of Defence. He can't just go home for Christmas. And so perhaps in a run-up to Christmas, there's going to be some crisis situation, maybe in Gaza, maybe in Ukraine, something that comes up that he has to deal with. And it's not perhaps going to be to his liking. Now, I wonder, with Lloyd Austin, now he's obviously been to Kiev. He's probably been there quite a lot of times, I don't know. And I suppose he's met Volodymyr Zelensky. I wonder how the two men actually get on with each other. Because they've got an interesting piece of synastry. Let me just show you their synastry. Let's put Lloyd Austin and there's Zelensky. So Lloyd Austin's chart is in the middle, and Zelensky's chart is in the outer ring. So you can see what Lloyd Austin has. Well, it looks as if he's got a Moon-Mars conjunction there, but we don't know that because we don't know where his moon is exactly because we don't have a time of birth. But his Mars at 625 Leo is opposition Zelensky's conjunction at the Sun and Venus in Aquarius. So I'm wondering if perhaps Lloyd Austin and Volodymyr Zelensky don't actually get on with each other. There may be a personality clash there. Maybe they're just working on, they're just working at completely different levels. They're on completely different wavelengths, that could be a problem. Now, the thing about this Jupiter at the end of the week, at around the 23rd, you've got this Jupiter sesquiquadrate Mars. So Jupiter is going to be square Lloyd Austin's Mars, and it's going to be square Zelensky's Sun-Venus conjunction. So that Jupiter may impact their relationship in some way, and so this may be telling us, what Lloyd Austin is going to have to deal with just before Christmas as Secretary of Defence. Now, as far as Zelensky's chart is concerned, I know I talk about his chart a lot, but Zelensky's got a really interesting chart. It's a chart I just keep looking at. So my apologies if you're bored of Zelensky. I'm going to try to keep off the subject of Zelensky in the immediate future because we've had a bit of we've had a bit too much of him. But the point is that he's got his Sun-Venus conjunction at 5 Aquarius. Let's just compare that with we'll put Zelensky in, and we'll put There we go. So outer wheel, I've got the positions of the planets. Well, the positions of the planets when that Mars-Jupiter sesquiquadrate was exact and so you can see that Jupiter is at 542 Taurus, and it's almost exactly square his Venus. It's also moving to the square of his Sun. It doesn't actually get to the square of its Sun because it does go stationary direct at the beginning of the month, at the end of the month. But then you've got Mars as well. Mars is where's Mars gone? I've lost Mars. There's Mars. So Mars at 2042 is now, are you seeing what I'm seeing, by the way? That's amazing. I actually hadn't noticed that. Because the thing is, Zelensky has 21 has his ascendant at 2147 Gemini, and so at the end of a week, pretty much over Christmas, he's going to have Mars exactly on his descendant, at a time when he's going to have Jupiter, square his Sun-Venus conjunction, when he's going to have transiting Mars. Mars is not just going to be on; it's going to be on his descendant, and it's also going to be making a semi-square to his Sun-Venus conjunction. This Mars on his descendant, that could be dangerous. So I think Zelensky could be having a tough time, and I don't know what he's doing over Christmas, but I would suggest to Volodymyr Zelensky that he stays out of Ukraine, stays out of his enemies. You know, he's got a lot of enemies, and those enemies aren't Russians. And so with Mars on his descendant, he has to be careful, extremely careful. And, you know, I think of all the people I'm looking at today, because I hadn't actually noticed the fact that he had Mars, he's got transiting Mars on his descendant. Could be very difficult for him. And he needs to, I don't know, he can go to Miami or something over Christmas. Maybe he's worked this out already. Maybe his astrologer has already, does he have an astrologer? I mean, he's an actor. Actors often have astrologers, don't they? Maybe he's already been told about this, in which case he'll be taking suitable precautions. Okay, that's Zelensky, and that's the astrology. And what I want to do now is I want to look at the I Ching. I should say, I always say this. You don't have to watch this. You know, my forecast for the I Ching assumes that you have made a decision. You want to hear this forecast. You want to be part of this forecast. You don't have to be part of this forecast. If you don't want to be part of this forecast, you can just stop watching the video. You don't have to watch it because it's always a voluntary process. So I must make that clear. So assuming you want me to do an I Ching reading, well, of course I've already done it, but you want me to prognosticate about it. Okay, so I asked the question, what is the week starting on Monday, December the 18th, going to be like for people watching this video? So I'm going to answer this in sort of four ways. I'm going to give a general view of the hexagrams I got, and then I'm going to go through money, career, and finally relationships. So the first hexagram I got was the cauldron. The cauldron it's quite an intense hexagram. I mean, I think overall it's pretty fortunate, but it requires some work. It requires us to make some changes. Now, in terms of the structure of the cauldron, these are the 6 lines of the hexagram. The bottom 3 lines represent the Chinese element of wood, and the top 3 lines represent the element of fire. So that kind of makes sense in terms of a cauldron. You've got wood, a fire burning over wood, and then you've got the cauldron burning on top of it. So in general, it's a time of change where we are trying to create change. Something has become stagnant. We're trying to create change. In terms of the cauldron, we've got all our resources, all our talents, our abilities, and we're kind of trying to bring them all together to create change. There may be a connection there between the tarot card Temperance. I think that the Crowley Tarot deck has this picture of someone throwing all these things into a pot or something like that, if I remember rightly. So the idea is you bring everything together and you need to structure it. So there may be a connection there with that tarot card Temperance, bringing things together. And doing it in a careful way. So that's the challenge. That's what we need to do. And there are going to be times, particularly at the beginning, where we don't get a lot of support. The second line moves, and the second line is about us successfully starting to get things together. But the people watching us may not be very appreciative. Perhaps they can see us getting ourselves together, but they don't want to recognize it. It's in some way threatening. But we just have to keep going. These people out there watching us, they can't do us any harm. So we keep moving. And so we get the 5th line moves and we get the 6th line moving. And so the 5th line moves, that is about really starting to make progress. And then the 6th line, often in the I Ching, the 6th line is unfortunate, but the 6th line in this case is not unfortunate. It's like, it's almost a blessing. What we're doing is right, and the universe is smiling upon us. So we can create this change. It's the correct change, and then this moves to a second hexagram, which is hexagram 31, which is influence. We can really have an influence on the people around us. Probably quite useful in the run-up to Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, having an influence. Things can get really chaotic, and we can influence the people around us, and not necessarily through coercion. In fact, not through coercion. Perhaps just through example, saying this is what I am, this is what I can do, and people will just say, yeah, that's great. And so we can have an influence, and we can change our environment, whatever that environment is. We can change it for the better, but it's slow. It's not about creating dramatic changes in our relationship with the people around us. It's slowly having a greater and greater influence as we demonstrate our true worth. So that's the general picture. I now want to look at these hexagrams from a perspective. This I Ching reading, from a perspective of money. So from a financial perspective, even though it's a time of year when many of us spend too much money. It seems that there are definitely things you can do to improve your financial prospects. Now, you might be worried about money, maybe. You might feel you don't have enough money. But the cauldron indicates that there are things you can do to change the situation for the better. Because if you look at all your resources, all your talents, all your skills, maybe also all the bits of money around you, maybe in different bank accounts, in different forms and whatever, and you put it all together, you've really got quite a lot of things you've got a lot of things at your disposal, and if you can bring them together, you can create something really really quite special. Now, to begin with, your attempts to address the financial situation may not seem to be successful because other people don't appreciate it. Maybe they're just thinking, well, it's Christmas, end of December, whatever. We don't need to worry about money. And if you start being worried about money, then you might get criticism or whatever. Maybe everyone else wants to go to an expensive restaurant, and you don't. Maybe everyone else wants to do something that's expensive or wasteful, and you just say, no, you're not going to do it. Now, you might get criticism for this, but actually everyone will privately know that you're doing the right thing. So that might be how you want to start this process of change off, by perhaps a public display of, I suppose, I don't like to use the word, but meanness, being stingy. I know you get people, these are not nice words, meanness, stinginess, but in this situation, it might be a good way to start things off, just to make it clear where you stand. And then as you progress through the week, as you go through your finances, you go through your resources, you can really start to create something, create some real security for yourself. And there's certainly no reason to spend a lot of money you've got better things to do, and I think you should find it quite easy to bring things together. I mean, going back to the tarot card, Temperance. Temperance is about restriction in a way. I mean, discipline. It's about disciplining what we're doing, being showing temperance. I don't really like to mix tarot and I Ching. I don't really use tarot cards. But I just thought that temperance seems to help describe the cauldron. So you can you can really bring everything together, and just don't overspend. It's so unnecessary, and it. Everyone knows it's unnecessary, and particularly with the cauldron. Except in one sense. In terms of expenditure, there's one area of expenditure that you might want to consider, and I suppose the logic would go like this: is that in order to heat up the cauldron, I suppose you have to burn wood. You have to, in a way, break something down. You have to destroy something, because what you do is you destroy something, the wood burns, and it goes into the ether, and that's almost something quite magical. And in terms of your own expenditure, spending a little bit of money on charity, doesn't have to be very much, just some form of charity over the week. I'm not talking about a huge amount of money. It's like you're burning something up because you're going to get it back, and you're probably going to get it back tenfold, hundredfold maybe. So that's something to consider with that cauldron image. Putting a little bit of money on the cauldron and on the fire, but it's not really burning, going anywhere. It's going to a good cause or whatever. That might be a good way of improving your luck. Anyway, the cauldron it does move, and it moves to 31. And so this is a situation where, in a financial sense, I think by the end of a week, we can actually have quite a big influence on the people around us, our views about the way money should be spent. So, for example, in the family, there might be, or in a relationship, there might be arguments about the way money should be used. And you and the other people might have different opinions, but it seems that slowly you're going to be able to get your view of the world across, and you really will start to have an influence. That is good. I mean, influence. Okay, it needn't just be about other people. Well, it might be influence, because money is often, if you're trying to get money out of someone, if you're coming into the reading, if you're coming into this video and that's what you're asking, can you get someone to give you more money? If you're looking for money from someone, then it's a slow process, but you're having an influence on this person. You may not get the money by the end of a week, but you've started the process. So again, I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's now turn to career now and business. Now, I do understand that for many people in the run-up to Christmas, this kind of thing comes, depending on where you are, depending on the culture you're in, this kind of thing grinds to a halt. People don't work, so it may not be immediately relevant. But anyway, let's still look at things from a career perspective. Whatever's going on in your career, if you have a career, if business is important, whatever, if you're trying to set up a business, whatever. If this is what you're coming into, this is what you're coming into this video with, a concern about business and career, there's certainly a huge amount you can do to make things better. And as I've said before, it's about marshalling your resources. It's about bringing all the experience, all the skills you've got, and bringing them together, and doing it in quite a single-minded way, and perhaps ignoring the fact that it's Christmas, or as they say in America, the holiday season, whatever. Just keep going. Don't get too concerned about the outside sort of festivities. You've got things to do. And so by bringing all of this together, you can become much more effective at work. I mean, okay, you may not be working over the next week, but in a new year, you're basically laying down some important foundations. And even if you're at home, you can still create these foundations. You can still gather your resources together. So if you're, for example, if you're unemployed or you're looking for a new job, this is a great time to write your resume or CV, whatever you call it. And that's, again, it's bringing your resources together. You've got to think about what your skills are. Maybe in the past you've undersold yourself and you haven't talked about certain skills and experiences, but maybe now is the time to bring it together, because I think you can do a really good job. And if you're running your own business, things could be a lot better. And I mean that in a positive sense. I don't think you've used everything at your disposal fully. So look at your talents, the talents of other people, the people around you, the people you're working with, and bring them all together. And in terms of the sacrifice, what are you going to lose? What are you going to give up? Maybe there needs to be a bit of focus on learning a new skill, perhaps. Maybe cost some money to learn a new skill. There won't be an immediate profit, but that is something that is worth doing. And so this hexagram, the cauldron, it does move. It moves to hexagram 31, which is influence. So whatever you're doing in terms of business and career, once you've brought everything together, once you've cooked everything up in the cauldron, you can start spreading the word. And I think you will be very effective. Once people see what you've created for yourself, once people see what you can do, whether it's how you've described yourself in a CV or a resume, how you've advertised your services as a business. Once people see this, they'll really start taking you seriously. And if it's just, if you're just in an ordinary job, is any job ordinary? I don't know. You are going to be taken more seriously, because this is influence. And this could sort of lead to more sort of responsibility. But I understand that this hexagram, this I Ching reading is taking place against the background of Christmas, and very often things are closing down. So you might think that this is irrelevant, but just maybe as things close down for Christmas, maybe there's an opportunity there. When everyone else is out enjoying themselves, I think in one of my 12 forecasts of a 12 sign, was it yesterday, I talked about the festive fog. Yeah, the festive fog. Whenever other people are just lost in the festive fog, maybe you can actually do something. Persuade someone that you need to be taken seriously. People won't forget. So I think it's good. Even though Christmas might seem to put a damper on it, it needn't put a damper on it. Okay, finally, I want to look at the I Ching from a perspective of relationships. Now, the cauldron can be about regime change, about things that have to change. Now, if you're already in a relationship, I think you may feel that things are not perfect. Even if it's great, even if it's a long-term relationship, you may still feel that something is not quite right. And if you're in a new relationship, or in a relationship that, has recently had some turmoil, it's going to be even stronger, the fact that something is not right. But something needs to be changed. And the cauldron is about change. You may feel that change is not possible, but no, whatever relationship you're in can be changed, and it can be changed for the better. You have to consider what you want, what you don't want, being very clear about what you don't want, and I suppose as it is a cauldron, a ritual cauldron. In fact, that's one view. Greg Wincup calls it a ritual cauldron. You might have to think what has to be given up. It may be that some aspect of a relationship needs to be given up, needs to be closed down, so that the broader relationship can benefit. So do consider that. And the cauldron, as we know, it does change, and it changes to influence. Now, this hexagram influence is specifically about relationships. In the Wilhelm translation, it has, I think, in parentheses the words wooing, starting to form a relationship. So if you are in a relationship, that is about having an influence on your partner. Needn't be a romantic relationship. It can be a business relationship. It can just be a friendship, perhaps an important friendship. But you can have an increasing amount of influence, and the other person is likely, in the end, to say, yes, you're right, and they'll start to change their behavior because of you. If you're not in a relationship and you're looking for a relationship, then that word wooing, which the Wilhelm translation uses, becomes really quite important. So the way it would work if you were looking for a new relationship is it's saying, well, first, the cauldron, that's like working on yourself, bringing everything that's great about you together, and then moving to influence, which is about wooing, and then showing the world who you are and what you've got, and focusing perhaps on one person, and then the relationship can really become a real possibility. So that's relationship. So whatever the stage of a relationship you're in, whether it's a relationship you're hoping for, or a relationship you're in, a relationship you're trying to end, it all looks good, because the cauldron allows you, that this hexagram 50, it allows you to really create a lot of power for yourself, because you can really make the most of who you are, and then having brought everything together, you can start to have real influence on the other person. Okay, so that's the I Ching. That's the astrology. I don't think that it's a particularly dramatic week. There are some things to consider. I think that, I mentioned the fact that Mercury is sesquiquadrate Uranus, so we have to be careful what we say, particularly at the beginning of a week and in the middle of a week. Venus opposition Uranus, relationships could start to be a little unstable. We also have to watch out for excessive expenditure with Venus opposition Uranus, but end of the week, yes, Mars is sesquiquadrate Jupiter, so certain people may be affected by this. But the I Ching is telling us, is perhaps giving us some broader advice. It's just telling us to focus on who we are, bringing our talents together, and then we can start to have a real influence on the outside world. So overall, I think it should be a good week. Okay, that is all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching this video. If you have liked this video, then press the like button. If you haven't subscribed and you like the video, then please feel free to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. Anyway, thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you again very soon.